Well, good morning. Welcome to Cup of Faith for Wednesday. Today is May the 12th already. Hope you're having a good week. Welcome to our home. Glad you're able to join us. And if you've been following the COVID news and vaccination news, and it's all looking more and more positive. But for a few moments, I'd like to talk to you about loneliness and hope for loneliness. There was a Health Day News had put out an article in November of this last year, and in essence, it said loneliness can strike at any age, but a new study found that it's actually young adults who are the loneliest. And surprisingly, people in their 60s, which would be people like Brenda and me, we are the least lonely. Um, it was a surprise to me because I know that when we hit middle age and our kids were gone, it was the opportunity to, I guess, redefine our marriage in a good way. Um, but it also closed us off to a lot of social outlets. Regardless, I'll move on. In this time of COVID, this last year and a half almost, it's been a pretty lonely time for some people because of quarantining and isolating and even mask wearing. All of these measures that we have taken have had their own set of effects. Even though we have technology and we have social media, and we're more connected in a lot of ways, but on the other hand, we have missed those human moments of actual face-to-face exchange without interruption, and they have become rare. So what causes loneliness, do you think? Well, I think that there are internal reasons and there are external reasons why we're lonely. We're often lonely because we're alone, or something is missing inside of us, something is disconnected. Um, in 1969, when I was 11 years old, I uh, I had spent the summer, it was actually an extended summer with my grandparents, my siblings, and I. My father was on the west coast on Vancouver Island taking a course where he would be commissioned from corporal to lieutenant and would be trained as an air traffic controller. And we spent our entire 4 month summer on the other coast in Nova Scotia with my grandparents. One of the things that they had offered and provided was to go to a camp. And so uh, I believe my brother and I went to a YMCA camp, and it was quite expensive. I think in 1969 it was $50 to go to that camp. And the thing that struck me, because I'm not really a camper, there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't see the attraction of the bugs and the sleeping outside and sleeping on the ground, or I none of it really appeals to me. My idea of camping is in a four-star hotel. But I digress. Uh, but the thing that I really remember was the emotional thing, how lonely I was, how I didn't know anybody there, how nobody really talked to me, how I didn't know how to approach people, how far away my dad was, and how long it had been since I had seen him. Uh, I didn't know how far away my grandparents were. All of those things contributed that it was a very lonely time. And so I have a question for you. What is your YMCA camp time? What is the situation that you remember because you remember how lonely you were? And perhaps you're going through that right now. For all ages, we have predictors of loneliness, and they include lower levels of empathy and compassion. Our social networks are getting smaller and smaller. We may not have a spouse or a partner. We're having sleeping problems. And it's interesting that 1 out of 4 Americans feel that they have no one to talk to about personal problems. I don't know if you fit into that category or not, but that's a pretty high percentage, 25%. And loneliness is the leading reason that people seek out therapy. So it's a big thing. It that we don't give enough attention to. Now, conversely, here's some good news. We thrive in community. We were designed to be in community, in connection, in giving, and of receiving love. And there was a survey by the Stanford University students, and they were asked what single activity brought them the greatest fulfillment. Can you guess what it was? The most commonly given answer was spending time with friends and loved ones. I thought about this. About a month ago, I wrote out a 10-year vision for myself, and what really surrounded it was how much I wanted to spend time with people I loved and the people I admired. We're hardwired for community. So let's talk for a second about how to overcome loneliness. I think that there are things to do, but there is also a truth to believe. Well, on one hand, to do. One of the great ways to overcome loneliness is to serve. Jesus said that if you want to save your life, you have to lose it for my sake and for the sake of the kingdom, from Matthew 6:25. I sometimes say that I give, and I try to be generous for self-serving reasons, because I know that whenever I give, God gives that back much more to me. And I know that when I stop giving, good things stop happening. I think that that's not only so with our resources, but I think it's true with our time and our energy and our emotions. So we need to find these ways to serve to help overcome loneliness. In our church, the Moose Jaw Church of God, we're a place for people who are alone and lonely. And we have a set of values, and it's an acronym for the word HOPE. HOPE. Hospitality, openness, potential, and empathy. And in hospitality, when you think of hospitality, you think, oh, well, that's like coming to a dinner party. It's and how are you treated, and is the home clean, and is the table set correctly? We think of that as hospitality, the gift of hospitality, but it is so much more. It's a welcoming environment. And in our church, our value for hospitality really means not the kind of dinner party we put on, not the kind of service we put on, but how we treat you when you come. And in our church, everyone is welcome here. We will never be too big or too full for one more person. That's hospitality to us. In Luke chapter 14, there's a story and let me read it. The servant returned and told his master what they had said. The context is that the master had prepared a great feast and was inviting people, and nobody wanted to come. Everybody had an excuse. And so this is where the servant returns and told his master what everybody had said, and his master was furious, and he says, quickly, go into the streets and the alleys of the town and invite the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. After the servant had done this, he reported, there is still room for more. So his master said, go out into the country lanes and behind the hedges and urge everyone you can find to come, so that the house will be full. That's the kind of church we are, that we will always have room for one more. And lastly, here's a truth to believe. I think our truths are best served when they are rooted in the truths about the character and the acts of God. So allow me to close as I read Psalm 68 verses 5 and part of verse 6. A father to the fatherless, a defender of widows, is God in his holy dwelling. God sets the lonely in families. If you're in that season of being alone and loneliness, know this above everything else, that this is who God is. God passionately desires to engage to us, and he offers us this father when we feel fatherless, that he defends those of us who have no one to defend us, and he sets us in families. Bless you today. Enjoy your cup of faith. Cheers. Brendan, I love you. and we're believing the best for you in Christ this week.